You can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the JD Sports Show on 12 Ounce Sports. Glad you could join us today. Glad you could be with us on this fine Monday afternoon. Another week of sports in the book, another week of the JD Sports Show here on 12 Ounce Sports. Glad you're listening, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter, 12 Ounce Sports Network, or on the Zingo TV. I want to thank you for listening in today. Hour-long show to go. Lots to talk about, lots of things to do, so let's get right to it. My first few shows have been kind of bleak starts, but today we're going to have a more uplifting start because we're going to talk about Luka Mania, Luka Doncic, shooting guard for the Dallas Mavericks, who has become a star just in his second year in the NBA and already by many, including myself, considered to be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 player in all the league. I would consider him probably top 5. I think most would consider him at least top 10, if not top 5. And what he has done in this playoffs that have gone underway, facing an uphill battle against the Mavericks are the 7th seed in the playoffs, and they're facing the Clippers, who are the 2 seed. And many people thought that the Clippers might be the only real team to give the Lakers a shot in the West, but now after 4 games, the Mavericks and the Clippers are tied at 2-2 apiece, and that is really especially in Game 4, thanks to Luka Doncic. Of course, if you don't follow basketball or don't know, been living under a rock, Luka has been tearing it up in the playoffs so far, and he hit a game-winning 3 in overtime against the Clippers yesterday to tie the series at 2 apiece. And, when you look at his stats, so let's look at Luka's stats so far in the playoffs. So in game 1, he had 42 points, which is just, look, they lost 118 to 110, but he scored 42, the 110 of his team, 7 rebounds, 9 assists. In game 2, he had 28 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. The Mavericks did win that game 127 to 114. In game 3, of course, Luka was injured for that game with an ankle injury. He only had 13 points. He did have 10 rebounds and 10 assists, but he did not play very much because he had the ankle injury. He played the first half. It happened late in the third quarter when that ankle injury happened to Luka, and he did come back in, but wasn't very effective. Was kind of hobbling around, but still, to do what he did was pretty impressive. And then obviously game 4, which happened last night, 43 points, 17 rebounds, 13 assists, 1 block and 2 steals for Luka, and of course the game winner, 3-pointer at the buzzer in overtime to win. And that was, they didn't have to get the 3. They were only down by a point. But Luka had a great step back shot for the Fire for the 3. He knocked it in. Mike Breen, on the call. As always, fantastic broadcaster for the NBA on ESPN with a fantastic call on that. Go listen to that. So Luka right now through 4 games in the playoff is averaging 31.5 points. And that's about as good as you can do when you're talking about by yourself, individually, 31.5 points. And, he would have probably been a lot more if it wasn't for a game 3 injury. I mean, he's been outstanding. 2 40-point games in 4 games. And, of course, the 28-point game, but then obviously the 13-point game. But, again, like I said, a little unfair because of the fact that he did get injured in that game. It was in the third quarter, but still did suffer an injury. And like I said, when he came back into the game, he was hobbling a bit, didn't really look 100%. And a lot of people wondered, he was a game, actually, and the crazy thing is, and I'm sure the Mavericks are thinking the man above that they did put him in. Luka was a game-time decision for game 4 because of that ankle injury. But knowing Luka, and obviously he came back in the game, and he probably didn't need to because of the injury. He probably should know because of the injury. But he came back in the game. He's a tough guy. He has shown that. For those of you who don't know, Luka came from overseas. He was an international draftee by the Mavericks in 2018. And a lot of people criticize the Mavericks for that because, a lot of times, I don't know if I want to say a lot of times, but maybe more times than not, international draftees don't pan out. And once in a while, you can strike gold. There have been a lot of really fantastic international players that have come from overseas in the NBA. But it does seem like every time we get to the NBA draft, people are skeptical about drafting international players because of the fact that they're worried. But I mean, look, some of the best players in the game, Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic, are international signings. It happens. But not a little bit maybe PTSD because my Detroit Pistons may or may not have drafted an international draftee over said Hall of Famers, but that's not here nor there. Point is, a lot of teams, a lot of fan bases are they're hesitant to pick international players. And I remember watching that draft that year, and I didn't know much about Luka. I knew he was a really popular international player, and I knew that that there was a lot of want for him, and he was probably going to be a first-round pick. But I remember there were some analysts that were just kind of like, man, this is a guy that might come over, and he might bust because his style of play may not fit the NBA. It's more for the international scene. And then the Mavericks took him at number 3 overall, and I remember they got pretty heavily criticized. They not as bad as the Knicks did with Porzingis. They were booed out of the building when they drafted Porzingis, which turned out okay for the Knicks, but it was a mixed reaction. I think Luka certainly it was a very mixed bag. I mean, some people were saying yes, this guy is the next big thing, and then there's other people, and that you could say that for anybody. But I think when it comes to international players, everybody's a little bit more hesitant on that. And, I felt like it was a little unfair because I watched his style of play and I watched Luka play. I watched some film actually on Luka's international play um, after he got drafted because I was so curious, like why were people so back and forth? Why was there so much animosity? And I just didn't get it. I mean, you could tell. I mean, I'm no scout, and I'm not going to sit here and be one. I'm not even the biggest basketball guru, so it's hard for me to sit here and say this. But when I watched his film, I went, man, how can you not like this kid? First of all, I get it. Some people might not like that swagger or that mentality that some players carry around with them. Um, but in my opinion, I feel like if you've got the stats to back it up and you can ball on the court, do what you need to do. As long as you can stay on the court and be productive when the team needs you to be productive, then go out there and flaunt and taunt a little bit if you want. I have no problem with that. And I wonder if that's why some people didn't like that. And some people were talking about his style of play. But boy, when I watched his film, I was pretty blown away. And I think I didn't obviously know he was going to be a superstar. I mean, again, I believe Luka's the top 5 player in all of the NBA. I don't know if even I've necessarily thought that, but I definitely didn't. I was a little surprised at all the mixed reviews for Luka. Is what I'm trying to say. It was a little surprising to me about that. But at the end of the day, GMs are GMs, right? I mean, they pay the scouts to scout. The GMs are the one that makes the picks. And Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks struck absolute gold with Luka Doncic, who is, again, I think become one of the top 5 players in all of the National Basketball Association. And I think as we continue to watch him do his management, look, the Mavericks are a good team, but I don't think very many people, including myself, had them beating the Clippers. And it's 2-2. It is 2-2 after 4 games. And I know that Luka, his ankle's in question, right? Can his ankle stay up? Can he stay healthy? I don't know. But if he can continue to drop 31 and a half points, he's averaging 32 points a game. If he can continue to do that, he's going to give the Mavericks a chance. And I love watching Luka play. He's such a fun player to watch. Again, some people don't care for that swag and that mentality, right? Some people aren't about that. They don't want that. They want you to just kind of sit and play, and that's what it is. Although I think NBA is a little bit different, right? This isn't Major League Baseball where these unwritten rules, which we'll get to in a little bit, come into play. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Luka is Luka, and that's what makes him good, and that's what makes him special. I think he stands out above the rest because of that. He's such a fun player to watch. I would love to see the Mavs pull the upset. I know I picked the Clippers on my predictions, but how fun would that be to see Luka go deep? I would love to see Luka get a real deep run in the playoffs. And I think if they beat the Clippers, they have a really good chance to meet the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. And that would be a really fun matchup. Maybe the best player in the NBA, LeBron, versus right there, the future, and Luka. I am definitely looking forward to the rest of the series between the Clippers and the Mavericks. I think it will be a very fun finish to the series. I think the Clippers will prevail. I still believe they will win at the end of the day. Luka's kind of a one-man wrecking ball right now, but the Clippers have a lot of depth behind Kawhi Leonard, and I think that's going to take over. I think the Clippers certainly are maybe not as good as I thought they were. Again, I think maybe the bubble. I think the bubble hurt some of the better teams. But boy, Luka's balling out. I hope he continues to ball out because he's a fun player to watch. And I would have no problem if they beat the Clippers and be able to sit there and watch Luka go give it another round. I think that would be a blast to watch. So definitely something to keep an eye out for, and we'll continue to monitor. All right, moving on to Major League Baseball. It's crazy to think that we are halfway through this shortened season. We're in the halfway mark now, at least for most teams. Some teams have not played that because of the COVID situations, the Marlins, the Mets, Cardinals. But majority of the teams are now right about halfway. And this is what I talked about in the prediction show, that it's going to come and go really quickly. And when you have these struggles and you have these ups and downs, you can't have a lot of downs. You got to have a lot of ups. And unfortunately, my Tigers, who I predicted to make the playoffs, have let me down a little bit. Although they did win, they for the first time since 2018, the Tigers beat the Cleveland Indians in a series. They won 2 out of 3 against the Indians this weekend in Cleveland. The first time since 2018 they've done that. And on Friday, they won a game against the Indians for the first time. There was 20. They had lost to the Indians 20 games in a row before Friday night. So they broke a couple of streaks this weekend, which was nice to see. We also saw the debuts of Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize last week. I'll kind of go briefly on those guys. First of all, I think they have electric stuff. I think Casey Mize has ace stuff. Like, I'm saying number one, top of the rotation, stuff and demeanor. He has a really good demeanor out on the mound. You can tell he's confident. Some people don't like that, but I think it's good, especially for a young guy. I think you want to be confident. I don't think it's a problem to do that, especially in today's game with batters who are going to show off a little bit more. And again, I have no problem with that either. So I think you've got to have a little bit more confidence out there. And look, you're the number one. You were the number one overall pick. You should have confidence that you're a good pitcher. And I love Casey Mize's stuff. I think he has ace type stuff. He'll continue to grow. They all will as they get more starts. But I was so impressed with Mize. I'm happy. I know he didn't go long, but I just wanted to see his stuff in action. And his splitter that he has, which when he was in the draft in 2018, Jim Callis, who was one of the leading scouters for MLB Network and MLB.com's pipeline, said that splitter in that 2018 draft was the best off-speed pitch, so the best non-fastball pitch in the draft. And I remember watching clips of it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty good. But, man, when I was watching it against the White Sox on Wednesday, it was really just when it's on, when that splitter goes where he wants it to do, it's so difficult because it really dives right at the knees. So you think it's going to be a strike, and then it just disappears at the last second. That splitter is nasty, and I think he has no-hit stuff. I mean, he's already had a no-hitter in Double-A. He had a Double-A no-hitter last year with the Erie Seawolves last summer. And I think he's going to have one of those times where he's going to have everything working. That fastball is going to be good and firm. He's going to be located when that splitter's on, the changeup. He's going to have a day where all that stuff is working, and he's going to have that. Tarek Skubal is interesting. Now, I know his debut was not the best. He gave up 4 runs over a couple innings. And he had another start yesterday, his second start. Mize will have his second start tonight against the Cubs in Detroit. So Mize goes from one powerful Chicago lineup to another powerful Chicago lineup. And Skubal, I thought, looked a lot better yesterday than he did on Tuesday. But I was sitting watching the game with my dad, and I was just talking to him about how, the results weren't good, but as scouts were saying, look at the stuff. And when you watch and I think he was a little jittery. You could tell Skubal did not have great command at the beginning of that game. And I think that was part of it. I mean, his pitch count was soaring already after 1 inning. And he got out of a nice jam in the first inning, which was big, but he put himself in a hole with a large pitch count. But the stuff was fire. I mean, really good. He could place it where he needed to. You could tell, obviously, his command was a little off, but he was right around the glove. Really, when he has a changeup that if it hits the mark is about as unhittable as it gets, because it fades so late, and when you have a 97-mile-an-hour fastball that it just rides on you so fast because of his arm angle. It's hard to describe, without showing, but the way he comes back and then goes forward with his motion, the ball jumps on a hitter really fast. So when you're expecting 97 and then you've got an 86-mile-an-hour pitch, I mean, batters were like way ahead of the pitch, thinking they were getting fastballs. So he's got some really good pitches, good breaking ball as well to go with the changeup and the fastball. But his first 2 starts have not been great efficiently. He's had a lot of pitches. He's been a little bit out of control, but still striking out guys. Even against Cleveland, had 4 or 5 strikeouts. He has the stuff. He'll just have to be more efficient with it. And, I think a lot of young pitchers, especially strikeout pitchers, have to, I think at first are more like that. They're very inefficient because strikeouts, when you are a guy that racks up strikeouts, your pitch count normally racks up higher because strikeouts take longer to do when you're a strikeout walk guy versus contact. Because if you're a pitcher that wants contact, you're wanting to get on the first, 2 or 3 pitches. And I think that with Skubal, I think he'll have to learn that, if he wants to be a strikeout guy, which is fine, um, you'll have to be more efficient. And it's funny because 2 guys that were in Detroit that were like that, Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer, were almost the same way. Huge strikeout guys, but they would have some starts where they were electric, but they could only go 6, maybe 7 innings because their pitch count was so high, and they had to be more efficient. And I think that when you're a strikeout pitcher, when you're a strikeout stuff, you're going to strike out people. And I think the manager will tell you, I would take 6 innings of 9 or 10 strikeouts if that's what you're going to give me. I'll take that. But unfortunately, Skubal's not even gotten past the 3rd or 4th inning yet, so he's got to be more efficient with that. His pitch count has gone way too high. Again, his command has been a little off, especially with the fastball. But when it's on, he's got stuff that's right there with Mize. I don't think he has quite as good of stuff, but I mean, you're talking about number 2 on a rotation if you're talking about Mize. And of course, for the Tiger fans, there's still some other really good pitchers in the farm system. Alex Faedo, first-round pick. Matt Manning, a first-round pick that have yet to make their major league debuts. That will arise at some point as well. That will be exciting to watch when they get their chance in Detroit. That'll be exciting to watch. Sorry, I went on a little bit of a Detroit rant there. Something happened last week in baseball that I want to talk about, and I've been pretty passionate on social media about it. And that was last week in a game against the Texas Rangers. Fernando Tatis Jr. was up at the plate late in the game, and the San Diego Padres had a 7-run lead in the 8th inning. It's 10-3, and Fernando Tatis came up to the plate with the bases loaded and had a 3-0 count, so 3 balls, no strikes on him. And Fernando Tatis hit the 3-0 pitch, which was pretty much right down the middle, out of the park for a grand slam. Now, I would have thought nothing of it other than the fact that I think Fernando Tatis is in the running for National League MVP. If not running for it, he might be the leading candidate for National League MVP. And I just thought nothing of it. And then I see both managers from Texas and San Diego grief about it. And what really irked me was his own manager irking about it. And I just thought to myself, like, what was Jace Tingler, who's the manager of the Padres, thinking? Now, I think one thing is, well, he did come from the Rangers, right? They got him from the Rangers this year. His first year as a manager for the Padres, and he was on the Rangers coaching staff last year. And so I thought maybe, but still, even then, so he came out and basically said that he felt like Tatis probably shouldn't have swung at that 3-0 pitch. He felt like it wasn't necessary. They were already up 7 runs. It was a 3-0 count, yada, yada, yada. And I get that if the opposing manager wants to sit there and say that, because that's what it is. Not that I agree with it, but boy, if I'm Tatis and I'm sitting there listening to my own manager kind of say that, first of all, I think it's rubbish, to put it as PG as possible. I think it's really dumb that that's even a thought. Unwritten rules in baseball, I think some of them are okay, but the majority of unwritten rules are just from the 1960s, right? I mean, it is 2020, all right? People want, look, if you want baseball to generate, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, if you want baseball to generate younger players and youth, then you've got to let these kids be kids out on the field. And if you're going to keep enforcing these dumb unwritten rules that were made in 1955 on these young players, it's just never going to work. You're never going to get young generations to watch if you keep doing this. And first of all, Fernando Tatis, and not only that, but Fernando Tatis is a young player, but he's in the. I mean, you're talking about a guy who has been so red hot. He's running for National League MVP. The San Diego Padres are suddenly a team that I don't want to give any spoilers away because I'm going to make two bold predictions in Major League Baseball, but a team that suddenly is looking like they can make a deep run, and you're going to come out and say that about your own guy, who's your future of the franchise. I mean, Fernando Tatis is your future face for the next 2 decades, and you're gonna, especially when you've been a manager for a hot minute. You know, this is his first year in the organization as a manager, and his first time ever being a manager. This isn't some guy who's been around the big leagues managing for 15, 20 years, or he's been in the organization for 15, 20 years. I don't know. It seems like the players didn't take it badly because since then, the Padres have still been hot. They've been Mark Slam Diego, excuse me. They've just been hitting grand slam night after night. They've just killed the ball. I mean, they literally hit home run at least one every night. And so it doesn't seem to affect them that much. But, you know, I would love to have seen what the locker room's reaction to that was, especially Tatis, because I know that team would rally around Tatis before the manager after saying that. Because, again, they understand that Tatis is a young kid who is leading them to possibly a deep postseason run, and your manager is going to come out and say that? If the opposing manager is going to say that, who cares, right? Let the opposing manager say that all he wants. So I wonder if because Tingler was in the Rangers organization, if that has something to do with it, right? Like, what if it was just a random team, wasn't the Rangers? Would he have still said that? I don't know. I'd like to think yes, because I hope he didn't do it just because he's trying to keep his friends over in Texas happy. But regardless of that, he shouldn't have said that. And I am so against these. And look, I don't care if it was 30 to nothing. If the ball's down the middle, hit it, right? If you don't want the kid to hit it on 3-0, don't throw him a cookie down the middle. All right, it's that simple. And I have to admit, I loved how Major League players, alumni rallied around Tatis because it needed that. He needed that. The game needed that. The game needed to see, and fans who maybe aren't well of the game needed to see that not everybody thinks in that fashion. So it was nice to see a guy like Trevor Bauer, pitcher for the Reds, come out and say, hey, hit a 3-0 ball. I don't care. If I give you a 3-0 fastball, hit it. That's my job. As a pitcher, it's my job to not let you do that. So if I make that mistake, that's my mistake. And there was some other players that said it. And Buck Showalter, this is the one that I think struck me a lot. Buck Showalter, who's been around the game a long time, has managed the game a long time. I saw that he commented on it. I went, uh-oh. I had this weird feeling that he was going to give me the lecture of the unwritten rules. But it was so nice for Buck Showalter to sit there and say, no, who cares? The kid don't throw a bad 3-0 pitch then. And it was so nice to see that because I think it gave a good perspective that old, people that have been around the game a long time, older guys like Buck Showalter and guys who are still in the game who are pitching like Trevor Bauer agree that that's dumb. Like, that's a dumb idea, unwritten rule. Unwritten rules in baseball are some of the weirdest things in sports, truly. I mean, I get some of them, but they're just so weird. And it's, again, I can understand. Like, a lot of people tell me that, like, how do you think you can get to younger fans of baseball? You know, I wrote an essay on this once, and I've always talked about, like, you have to let go of some of the things that you've been holding on to since 1900, since before World War I, baseball. You have to adapt and change like other sports are doing. And baseball is so sometimes stuck in its ways of things it has done forever and it doesn't want to change. I understand you don't want to change everything, right? You don't want to completely revamp the game, but you can learn and adapt different things. And first of all, Rob Manfred, who I thought was supposed to do that, has not done that. And now with this whole Tatis thing, it makes me think that we're not moving forward at all. Again, it was really nice to hear players and alumni, both coaches and players, express that they had no problem with what Tatis did. Trevor Bauer, by the way, is a great follow. By the way, if you're a baseball fan on Twitter, good follow because he tells it like it is. He really, a lot of people. There's been hashtags of make Bauer commissioner of baseball because he's very blunt, and whether that's good or bad, he's very blunt and honest about what he believes. And so it was nice, to hear a pitcher who's in the league right now say, "Hey, you know what? I don't care if I make that mistake. That's on me. Go out there and hit the ball." And from a guy like Buck Showalter, who's been around the game for a long time, to sit there and say that, I mean, that just shows you that get Jace Tingler. I know you're not listening, but if somehow you ever hear this, stop. Get out of the ways of these unwritten rules. Let the kids be kids and play. This is the future of your franchise, the face of your franchise, the future for the next decade or two. And you want to sit there and criticize him because he hit a 3-0 pitch? And by the way, I'm not saying that I'm not saying I agree with what the Rangers did either. I think them complaining about is just, is pity too. I mean, don't throw down the middle on 3-0. And the other thing is, Jace Tingler was trying to make he was trying to argue, well, 10-3 is a good lead. No, it's not. You know how many times the Oakland Athletics, the night before that home run, the Tatis home run, the night before that home run, came back from 6 runs in the 9th inning. The night before. So don't sit there and tell me 7 runs is safe, because it's not. In baseball, it's possible to score a lot of runs in a bad inning from another team, right? Errors go wrong, a big home run, a couple doubles, whatever. It is a big lead, but no lead's ever safe, especially when the night before a team went out there and scored 6 runs in the 9th inning. So to me, it's just like, man, let the kid be a kid. If you want younger generations to play baseball, to follow the game, to be fans of the game, to interact with the game, you have to let the kids be kids and not let these dumb, unwritten rules that were made hundreds of years ago continue to stop and block that. The official theme song of the JD Sports Show is Odyssey by Scorch featuring Tenet. Go search Scorch on SoundCloud now for your availability of Odyssey and other sounds. Thank you to our sponsors, The Field Golf Course. Make sure to visit the website, thefieldsgolfcourse.com, to book a tee time and for future availabilities. Thank you again to The Fields Golf Course, located in Ithaca, Michigan. Just want to take a moment to tell you all about 12 Ounce Sports. Now the action is officially back on. 12 Ounce Sports is your home for the best live talk shows covering all aspects of the sporting world and live game broadcast. With Zingo TV adding 12 Ounce Sports to their long list of channels, you can now catch my show, JD Sports Show, and all other shows on the Zingo TV channel 761. All you got to do is download Zingo TV and use the promo code 120Z. It's 12 ounce. When signing up, it's that simple. Be sure to check out our latest blogs and podcasts as well on 12ouncesportsradio.com. Sports are in full swing, and I want to help you take advantage of those sports investments when getting in on the action. 12 Ounce Sports has officially partnered with MyBookie to get you the best deal possible. When you sign up on mybookie.ag, they'll match your first deposit up to $1,000 when you punch in the promo code 12 Ounce Sports. That's 12 Ounce Sports when signing up on mybookie.ag to get your deposit matched up to $1,000. Speaking of betting, time to give you 2 bold predictions for the second half of this shortened MLB season. So you might want to get to mybookie.ag now and get ready to place your lines on these long, odd, bold prediction shots that I'm about to give you, and you may make some big money, which I will get half of by royalty if you do. Number 1, we just talked about the team, San Diego Padres. I think regardless of what happened with that situation, they obviously have not slowed down at all. They're still crushing the ball. They're one of the most fun teams to watch. I love watching them because 1 through 9, their pitching is a little worrisome. Their starting pitching is a little worrisome, but I think they have the offense to beat anybody if they need it. So bold prediction number 1, the San Diego Padres are going to be in the National League Championship Series against the Dodgers this year. I didn't even have the Padres making the playoffs in my earlier season predictions, and now I believe they will be in the National League Championship Series against the Dodgers. Again, I think this team can out-hit just about anybody. I think the Dodgers and the Yankees are probably the only two other offenses that I would think could be matched or would be better than the Padres. Again, their pitching is a little worrisome, but, clutch hitting and home runs, that's what you need in the postseason. That's what the Padres can do. They have good enough pitching, and I think they could maybe pick somebody up before the deadline, which is about to come up already. Go get maybe a veteran starting pitcher and give yourself another horse there to help you out, and go get it, Padres. Your time, you've got a chance now. It's a shortened season. Your team is hyped. You have a possible National League MVP in your squad. Go out and get it. Bold prediction number 2. Let's go to the American League. A team for the American League Central will be in the American League Championship Series. That means you have to choose from the Twins, the White Sox, the Indians, the Tigers, the Royals. And the reason this is bold is because they may end up having to face the Yankees to get there. And so that's why I'm not saying they will face the Yankees, because it would just depend on seeding. But I'm going to say that it's probably going to be either the White Sox or the Twins that do it. But a team for the American League Central will make the American League Championship Series, whether it be the Twins or whether it be the White Sox, or maybe somehow the Indians rally back, or my Tigers rally back. I don't know. A team for the American League Central will make the American League Championship Series this year. Mark it down. So my bold predictions are: 1, the San Diego Padres will make the National League Championship Series, and a team from the American League Central will make the American League Championship Series. So go to mybookie.ag, put your money on an AL Central team, put your money on the Padres to get to the championship series, and you're welcome for making you lots of money. Remember me, the JD Sports Show here on 12 on Sports. I don't know. I woke up this morning, I was like, I've been thinking about some bold predictions, and I kind of feel pretty good about these two. So we'll see. We'll see now that bold predictions. Now that we're halfway through, we'll see if hopefully I don't curse these teams. As soon as I made that bold prediction about the Tigers making the playoffs, they went on like a 9-game losing streak. So hopefully I didn't curse the Padres or the White Sox or Twins. And if I do, I do apologize to their fan bases. But I feel pretty confident. I feel pretty confident about these two picks right here. Believe it or not, the NFL, the National Football League, is 2 weeks away from this. On this Thursday, we are 2 weeks away from opening night. The Chiefs and the Texans opening night on NBC, and I couldn't believe that we were that close. I think not having preseason games has really thrown me off. It still feels like we're in the middle of summer because we haven't had preseason games, but kids are going back to school, and football, at least National Football League. College still unknown officially. Sounds like we're going to have some college football of some sort. But NFL is 2 weeks away from Thursday. And I can't wait for the September 7th show, which is the week the National Football League comes back, because I will have I'm going to dedicate that entire show to the NFL. I'm going to dedicate it to predictions and thoughts and everything to get you ready for the National Football League season that week. Again, September 7th will be the NFL show, so 2 weeks from today, we'll have that NFL show for you here on 12 on Sports. Super excited for that. If you're a fantasy player NFL fantasy player, you're probably getting ready to get started, as am I, getting ready to start. I, and I want to talk about that a little bit. And I'm going to pose this question on my Twitter as well after the show. I'm interested in what your thoughts are. So go follow me on Twitter at the JD Show 12 ounce. Interested on what your thoughts is, or give me your thoughts on Facebook. Like me at the JD Sports Show on Facebook. Certainly give me your thoughts. If you had the first pick in the NFL fantasy draft, who are you taking? I think it's really between three players. I think it's between Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and Christian McCaffrey. I think you could throw Michael Thomas in that conversation as well. But I think it's going to be between Lamar, Patrick, and McCaffrey. I think it's going to be one of those three guys who will be in majority of fantasy leagues taken first. So let's diagnose this and run you what I'm thinking. So if I had the first pick and I'm looking at those three, and hopefully I do have the first pick in my league, but last year I was the second pick and I picked Saquon Barkley, who was phenomenal for me. And a lot of people will say you always want to take running backs first, but I think with the way that guys like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes play, because they can do it with both their arm and their feet, and they pass so much, pass heavy. Of course, Lamar, they're run heavy, but he does a lot of the running. So because they're so, I guess maybe a better term or saying for this is they're so important to their offenses, everything runs through them, that they've kind of changed it. And these three guys that I just mentioned, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and McCaffrey, you take those guys out of those offenses, and they're not even close to the same. I mean, without those three guys, and you can say that for a lot of people, I understand that, but those three guys are so important to their offense and how they run. They're completely different teams. So, what do we do here? Lamar Jackson, Mahomes, McCaffrey, or somebody else. And again, I'll post the poll on Twitter to get your thoughts. Again, you could put maybe Russell Wilson or Michael Thomas in this discussion. You could maybe even throw Saquon Barkley in there as well. There's a lot of people you could definitely think about. So looking at NFL.com, they have Lamar Jackson projected to get 366 points, Patrick Mahomes to get 348, and Christian McCaffrey to get 345. So really close between the three of them. Lamar's a little bit up, but Mahomes and McCaffrey are right next to each other. I think, personally, Lamar seems like the easy choice to go number one, and I can understand why. But I'm telling you right now, I got burned so many times last year by Mahomes and McCaffrey. This does not seem like that easy of a pick because, again, when Mahomes has that game, those games where he just goes off and everything goes through him, 200, 300 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns, I mean, it's just a different game maker. But I really think Christian McCaffrey is going to have an uptick this year. I think having Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina, who they signed this offseason, is going to make that offense and Christian McCaffrey better because they didn't really have a quarterback last year. They went through some, Kyle Greer was okay. Kyle Allen, and Will Greer, and they were all over the place, and it was really McCaffrey or nobody. And Cam Newton the year before had been hurt, so they really have not. So if Teddy Bridgewater can stay healthy, this is the first time they're going to have a really sufficient, healthy quarterback. And I said that I was shocked the Saints didn't re-sign Bridgewater and let Drew Brees walk and then have Teddy be the future because I really thought he worked really well with the Saints. So I think I would pick Christian McCaffrey first if in the fantasy draft if I was going first. And again, here's my reasons. One, I think running backs are always the safe bet because they can rack up so many points in so many different ways. And when you're talking about McCaffrey, he can do it in several different ways. First of all, he's going to run a lot. But he could also, and I think this is the thing that makes him so dangerous, he's also basically a receiver because he catches a lot. He's a great yak, yards after catch. He's so good after contact. I think everything McCaffrey does gets points. I mean, it's like when he touches the ball, you're going to get a point, it seems like, at least, because he's just going to do something. And again, now because they have Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is going to elevate that offense a little bit more. I think McCaffrey would be the guy I would take number one overall. I think Lamar Jackson, I get it. And I would not be opposed to taking Lamar Jackson number two if I was to do that. But, man, McCaffrey seemed like he had 40 points every week last year in fantasy. And I had to play against that multiple times last year. And it was frustrating because it's just what he does. He just racks up points because he does so many different things for the offense. The offense will still, I think, run through McCaffrey, even though they do have Bridgewater. I think a lot of things will be designed around Christian. But I think now that they have Bridgewater, it's going to make him better because it's going to make other players better. And so now you don't have three defenders looking at Christian McCaffrey because now they have to look at DJ Moore on the outside because Teddy Bridgewater's throwing the rock around really well. And now there's other weapons to the outside. And now Christian McCaffrey, we can't focus everything on Christian McCaffrey because on number 22, Christian McCaffrey, sorry, I forgot his number for a minute, number 22, Christian McCaffrey, because we've got a quarterback back there that can throw to the outside and deep. And so now McCaffrey can get more running lanes because now the defense is going to have to respect the pass. Last year I would have put 8 in the box because I would have made them throw the ball. I would have made them beat me with an arm, not let McCaffrey beat me. Now, if Teddy Bridgewater comes out and he starts to sling the rock around well, which I think he will, now defenses can't put everything on McCaffrey. I would still double team the kid, but you can't force everything, and you got to respect the pass. So now that's going to give McCaffrey more options to run, more running lanes, not 8 guys in the box, and little dump down passes, which he is so good at. And you give McCaffrey a little dump down pass, and he's going to go for 20, 30, 40 yards with it. I've said this before and not on air, but I think Christian McCaffrey is a top 5 player in the NFL. I think he is so fun. I wish he was on a better team, but I said this earlier. I said I don't think the Chiefs would lose if they had McCaffrey because they could use a running back. I mean, could you imagine having Patrick Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey on the same team? That would be literally unfair. I mean, that would be something video game-like where you force a trade in Madden to get McCaffrey over to because I mean, that would just be the deadliest punch. I mean, you could say that for a lot of things, but the reason I'm saying that is because the Chiefs, I know they did draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but they've needed a running back. And by the way, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be a really good, I think that was a good draft pick by the Chiefs. That was their first round pick this year. He's a good back that is a good receiving back out of the backfield. Did a great job with Joe Burrow at LSU. But I think McCaffrey is one of the top players in the league, and I sit here right now and would say if I had the first pick in the draft, I would take Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall. I would. I think he's the best at what he does running, and I think he's an electric player. And I would take him number 1 overall. If I had the first pick in a fantasy draft, I would take him number 1 overall. I'd love to hear what you have to think. Again, I'll put a poll up on Twitter. Shoot me a comment on Facebook if you think otherwise. Love to hear your thoughts. Who would you take first? Lamar, Mahomes, McCaffrey? I don't know. Who are you taking? All right, let's end the show today. Let's end the show today with a little something, some news that came about today in another team or another sport and team I root for. That would be the Michigan Wolverines. And some news broke earlier this morning by Adrian Wojnarowski, who is an insider for NBA and for ESPN. Broke some news this morning saying that Juwan Howard, who is the coach for the Michigan Wolverine basketball team, his name was being thrown out there as a possible head coach for NBA teams. And this felt all too familiar with our football coach, Jim Harbaugh, who seemingly every offseason has had his name thrown in as well into the ringer for NFL coaching jobs. And so I thought at first it was fake. I thought it was the fake Wojnarowski Twitter account to find out it was actually the real Adrian Wojnarowski Twitter account, and I immediately just went to all my Michigan Twitter accounts to kind of see if they knew, if they had heard any more or seen anything. And the good news was it kind of sounded like it was just more of a rumor and not really plausible. And then, thankfully, I was able to breathe again because literally just before I came on the show today at 2 o'clock Eastern here on 12 Hours Sports, Juwan Howard posted a tweet saying he's not going anywhere. He heard the rumors today, and he is fully committed to being head coach of the Michigan Wolverine basketball squad. Now, the reason this is significant to me is because, first of all, that's good news, obviously. Juwan had only been here for a year, and as well as he's recruited, and I felt like he did a good job his first year, still learning. I was excited, or I was nervous to hear that, excuse me. And so the reason this is significant to me is it means one of two things. First of all, it was nice for Juwan to do that because I think anytime you're in the rumor mill, and if you truly have no intentions to do that, coming right out and saying that is the first thing you should do because you are recruiting young kids. And if I'm a recruit and I see that, that's a huge red flag to me. That's a huge red flag. And for kids that have already signed this past year, that's that's worrisome. So that's one reason I think it's a huge reason. Another reason is because it can snowball. When a rumor starts like that, it can snowball. And the reason I bring that up, and it should come from the guy that coaches the football team over there, Jim Harbaugh. When one rumor swirls about Jim Harbaugh, they all start to swirl. And the problem I've had with Harbaugh, maybe not necessarily a problem, but he sometimes takes a little bit to come out and say he's not actually doing it. And I'm not saying he's mandatory. He must come out that day and say he doesn't. But it always does worry me a little bit where he'll sometimes take a few days to come out with a statement. Oh, by the way, those rumors, those aren't true. It always makes me think, okay, in those few days, were you actually considering it? Because with Juwan Howard literally coming out today, just hours ago after the news broke, that tells me he had truly no intentions. But again, I think that's so important to do as a college coach. When you're a professional coach, you can let those rumors go as long as you want because it is what it is. Maybe not as long as you want because I think you want to secure free agents in the team you got, but I think you can let it relax a little bit more. When you're a college coach and you have those rumors flying that you're leaving, you've got to lock that down because there will be people who will make, as Jim Harbaugh said, there are turkey jives out there, to quote him, who will run with rumors as far as they can go, especially from opposing schools. And I don't necessarily blame them for that. But, rival schools will come out and try to run with rumors until it's knocked down by the guy himself or the woman herself. And so for Juwan Howard, the day that the news broke about this, to come out and say that's huge. Because it gets rid of, first of all, it lets me and all Michigan fans rest a little bit to go, whew, thank goodness. Second of all, it lets recruits who might be thinking about Michigan who are already been committed to Michigan relax a little bit. And go, okay, no, our coach is still going to be our coach. So, good on Juwan Howard to knock those down. Again, if he had real intentions, that's cool. But I'm glad that, if he didn't really, my theory is, look, if you really are thinking about pursuing the next level, that's fine. Let it go. But if you truly do want to stay where you're at, come out and just say it. Don't let it drag on because other teams and other schools and other rumor mills will start and you're going to hurt your recruiting. And Juwan Howard immediately knocked that down within just hours of that rumor surfacing, which again I think was so important for Michigan and for himself and for future recruits to do. I think that's a really genuine thing to do. I think it was very good on Juwan Howard to do that. So good on him. And good on Michigan because we get to keep Juwan Howard at least for another year, who I think did a really good job in his first year as coach, and of course has already shown he's a top level recruiter. So very happy about that. Well, that's all I have for today here on the JD Sports Show. Again, we thank you all for listening to JD Sports Show. Thank you to our sponsors, the Field Golf Course, MyBookie, 12 on Sports. Thank you again to Odyssey by Scorch, the official theme song of the JD Sports Show, which you will hear here in just a couple of seconds. Make sure to like me over on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. That poll that I mentioned about fantasy football will be going up here shortly. Thank you again to everybody who listened, wherever you listen that may be. And we will see you all again next Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern here on 12 on Sports. Have a fantastic night, everybody.
You got a dream, you got to protect it. People can't do something themselves. They want to tell you you can't do it. You want something, go get it. Period.